Hey, Alex, I just kind of wonder, during the season, there's an unknown of your future here, but you sort of have the games to prepare and stuff. This week with signing day 2, kind of how did you handle that whole process of not knowing if you're going to continue to be here, but still having to do your job?
I think, one is just, I think you have to, I felt like we had to prepare as if, just assume you're here. And then also we, pretty open. We talked about the possibility if someone else isn't here, still have a job to do. It's the right thing to do to try to, finish the class, recruit well. And if someone else is in here and they're coaching them, so be it. But, we have an obligation, responsibility. But we tried to prepare as if we're going to be here and recruit in that manner as much as possible. And I think we were able to get a good start on this class.
On that, just what's the ideal goal of the class, in terms of numbers? How much do you want to build on that? And then what would be your message to incoming recruits?
Well, one, I think when you talk about the goal of the class, football has obviously changed as it pertains to roster management. And, I remember when I got into coaching, you'd have a board and it would say, hey, here's quarterback, tackle, guard, center, receiver, so on and so forth. You've had all the positions lined up. And then you knew how many were probably exiting your team at the end of the year due to graduation. And then you'd have a little number over there, 1 above quarterback, maybe 2 against running backs, 4 above, maybe the offensive line in totality. And now that number is very variable because you don't know how many of your guys are going to enter the portal and so on and so forth. So I think the number's flexible as it pertains to what this class will look like, even the high school class. But obviously we want to bring the right kind of people into the organization, both, with their intangible qualities and their character, and also the talent and ability to help us, and guys that we feel like we can develop into the future. I'm sorry, what was your second question?
Your message to incoming recruits of what, this program will be.
Yeah, I think the one, what we talk about is some things I spoke on earlier is we want to help them develop in 3 big areas, and that it really is important to help them develop as a person. That they're going to be able to go have a successful life beyond athletics or when they get done at UAB. And then also as a student, it's something we talk to our players about today, and there are a lot of people that, are able to forge a successful life without a college degree. And, hey, my parents, my dad didn't go to a big 4-year institution, and he worked really hard and was able to create a positive life for himself and his family. But I think when you're in a position and given an opportunity to have an education, I think you need to respect the fact there are a lot of people that would like to trade places with you. And it's important to us to make sure our players understand that, and we need to take advantage of, the academic opportunity in front of them. And so that's the second thing is we're going to do everything we can to help support them academically, because a lot of them, hey, look, it's our goal. We know we're in the business of winning, and we need to try to win football games. And but it's still our goal to help them, beyond their time here. And then finally, hey, we're going to develop as football players, and we've got a really good plan to do that. We're very specific as how we're going to do that, and it's going to be a 12-month plan every year, and that's going to, be detailed. And we feel like we've got a good track record of doing that in the past, and we feel like the university is committed. We've got people here that are really committed to helping them do that. We've got a phenomenal facility. We got a great stadium. So we're really excited about, what the ceiling could be here. And, so when you've got a great institution, a great academic opportunity like UAB, coupled with what we can do as a football program and the vision and commitment that lies in front of us, I think there's a lot to sell from that standpoint.
Alex, first of all, congratulations. Secondly, you kind of had bookend wins, obviously, in very difficult circumstances. The immediate circumstance of taking on a top 25 team, and then, of course, everything that happened, and then winning the last game. We forget coaches need confidence, right? How much confidence did those bookend wins give you, knowing I can do this job and I want this job?
Yeah, I think those wins helped a lot. I mean, I think, our guys fought really hard. And you ask about confidence. I mean, maybe I'll be more transparent than I should be for a second. I mean, when everything happened the Memphis week, I mean, I'll admit, I put on the best front I could. I'd get in front of the cameras and come and doing a press conference, and, was disappointed too, to be frank with you. Fought fear, anxiety, all those things. I'll be totally transparent with you on that. But the one thing I will tell you, is when we got to game day and the centers and quarterbacks ran out for warm-up, and I jogged out of the tunnel, and as soon as my feet hit the field, it was all gone. And it just reminded me how much fun this is to compete and play. And I think that moment alone really helped me a lot. And I think the second thing is, we've have some people, here that I'm close to that have, that remind you that you're not doing this yourself either. And there are a lot of people that are committed, that want to help and work to make this place better. And so you're not taking it on alone. So certainly those games help from a confidence standpoint, but a lot of it is having confidence in the people around you, and been doing this a long time too, and prepared for a long time. So feel very equipped to take on the task.
Coach, again, congratulations. As you took on the responsibility to be an interim coach, did it all enter your mind, or did you at all consider that this is effectively a tryout for the job?
Truly, it did not cross my mind. I think there was maybe a point early where maybe after the win you go, wow, we have a little momentum here. Maybe there is an opportunity if we have some amount of success. But really, it was like 90-0, and we could barely see past our nose, and wearing multiple hats, in the middle of the season. It was just really trying to accomplish the next task one day at a time. And look, I'll go back to when first took on that responsibility. The number one objective was going, okay, these seniors have 6 weeks left, or 6 games left of football. And so really, like, my mindset, and I think the mindset of our staff was, whatever the future holds, let's make sure we give them the best 6 games possible, and let's serve them the best we can, and whatever the future holds, it holds. And that's really the approach we took.
During that whole process, during those 7 weeks, how much do you think it's helpful to do, not the football stuff, but the stuff you learned with a head coach, the media, just the different stuff you have to do that you never had to do? How much will that help you having sort of a trial run of that type of thing going into this?
Yeah, I think that experience is really helpful to have had to now go deal with some of those things and have some trial and error. And I think like any time you take on a new job or new task, you're going to get a little better as you go. But I also think understanding the time management challenges and how to stay organized and manage your day is probably the biggest thing, that probably got me a jump start on.
And I know this might be a little bit too early to ask this, but just the way that you're going to structure your staff, do you still plan on running the offense? Kind of, sort of, what are your thoughts on that, going into it, at least right now?
Right now, probably not. It's a little bit early, for us to talk about the staff stuff. Obviously, there'll be things, over the course of the coming days where, there'll be some conversations about staff and considerations will be made, and we're going to put as much thought into making sure we have the best people here as possible.
Did you require any assurances from Mark and the university that there would be a plan in place to get more financial backing? And what gave you the confidence to really take this head job?
Well, I think that really before any of those conversations started, they initiated their willingness to make a commitment to try to help. And they've already made a commitment, but to make a further commitment. And so that was really encouraging. And I think again, I think when you think about this place, there's certainly there are challenges. I spoke to that earlier, and we can't be naive as to though maybe we've had some stretches of success in the past, we're in an entirely new landscape now, whether it's the transfer portal, NIL, so we have to adapt to be competitive, and I think there's an understanding of that. And I think beyond that, if we can adapt in those areas, I think we do have a lot of inherent advantages, whether that's you talk about recruiting. We have a great 5-hour radius in recruiting. You could even say we got a great 3-hour radius in recruiting. You think about the greater Birmingham area on out, a lot of good football here, the good coaching, great football culture, good players. So I think we can use that. We've got, mentioned earlier, we have a great facility. We have an awesome stadium. So I think there are a lot of inherent advantages to begin with, and we feel like we're going to work to adapt in the other areas. So, those are things that gave us confidence to take this thing on.
You've kind of talked in the past a little bit about just sort of what your time at Alabama meant to you. does things like New Mexico Highlands and kind of the other stuff, I mean, sort of what are those things sort of meant to kind of develop you to who you are today as a coach?
Yeah, every experience all along the way. I mean, I go back to being in middle school, and running a wishbone offense, and the things I learned running the wishbone, in seventh grade, and running the wing tee in ninth grade, and I had great coaches and mentors. I would feel, I almost wish I could name all of them. There's so many, and so every step along the way is really had an impression on me, and it's more about the people. But you talk about a place like New Mexico Highlands where I was fortunate to work for Eric Young and worked with a great friend there named Stephen Parker, who I learned a lot from. But one of the things I felt like I gained from that experience is no color printer. At that time, I'm sure they have one now, but no excuses. And we found that group banded together, and we found a way to win 8 games, and you just find a way to get things done and go to work and not have self-fulfilling prophecies where you say, well, we don't have this, therefore we can't. But no, let's find a way. Let's find a way. So, every one of those, steps along this journey have helped me. And I would say too, to be more specific, the one thing about coaching, there at that time is a lot of our team was assembled quickly, and so obviously, being fortunate to be around Coach Saban and his program, I learned a lot, a tremendous amount. And, it's just hard to quantify how much I learned. But then in this current era where your team may be assembled quickly, you have a lot of roster turnover, there are some lessons I learned at a place, coaching, at a smaller school where a lot of our guys showed up after the 4th of July. So you had to have a great 8-week plan before you could go put the ball down, kick it off, and be ready to play. And so I worked with people that had experience at that and had, and I think we had a really good plan doing that. So I think those things practically really do help.
And the other thing, when you're involved, when you're a candidate in a coaching search, a lot of people like to follow who they're supposedly talking to and that type of thing. As a candidate, do you pay attention to names thrown out there, or kind of how do you handle that, I guess?
I don't know if I should answer that question. I hear all the same rumors everyone else hears, but we're pretty knee deep in work too, trying to recruit. So distractions were kept to a minimum. We tell our players to stay off their phones. So sometimes I got to take some coaching too and stay off the phone as well.
Speaking of your players, what were their reactions when you were able to tell them of this news? And having built relationships with them, how confident are you that you'll be able to retain a good portion of your roster? I know it's difficult in any aspect, but
yeah, we feel like we have really good relationships with our players here, and it's something we want to develop and grow more. I mean, becoming an interim coach in the middle of the year is unique, and that's another thing I share with the players today is that, if you have a runway of a whole offseason, as an offensive coach, I'd probably know the defensive players better. I'd know them individually. We would have met more. We would have spent more time together one-on-one. But I do feel like collectively we do have really good relationships, and it's hard to be predictive as to, how far that goes as they're weighing whatever their individual options are, and as we get closer to the portal. But we are, we're hopeful that we can keep a lot of the guys here that we feel like we can build around, and that's going to be important to us. It's our first priority right now.
And then I know you'll have to think about building a staff over the next few weeks, but there's an obvious hole at offensive coordinator now. What do you want in an offensive coordinator now that you're looking for one now?
I mean, it's a bit early, but I think the one thing that I learned being around the best coordinators I've been around is I do think that individually they're very bright. They have good leadership qualities. They're able to generate ideas on their own, but most of them I've been around have a spirit of listening. There's a spirit of humility, and again, that word coordinate means coordinate the efforts of everyone in the building, not just coordinating the players. And so the best coordinators I've been around do a really good job of taking ideas, having a spirit of discernment, knowing what ideas to use, what ideas not to use. So I think those are some things that are really important for any coordinator.
You kind of asked this a little bit, but why, after being here 3 years, why did you want this job? I mean, what made this job attractive to you?
Well, I think, some of the things I'm probably going to be redundant, but, you know, one, I do feel like I have some roots here growing up in Georgia and then, you know, coaching in the state for over a decade now. My mom is from the state of Alabama. So just have a lot of roots here, you know, to start with. And then I think secondly, you know, having been here, really just feel like, you know, we feel like we can build a successful program. And we feel like all the things, there are a lot of great things in place, like I mentioned. And again, I apologize for the redundancy, but location, recruiting radius, facility, stadium, you know, all those things are excellent. People, you know, people really are obviously the most important thing. And then finally, I think, as I mentioned, I think a willingness to adapt to the new competitive landscape and what that looks like. So those are all reasons that I was excited to try to take this thing on.
Here's another media fan question, right? So will you call your own plays? Have you even talked about that? Will you seek advice on that as you get closer? Obviously, you don't have to worry about it for another year. But
I think that's something that I'm not prepared to answer just yet. You know, and I think that there've been, you know, without stating a lot of specific examples, there are examples of that going really well, and there's examples of that not going well. You know, and you could. So I something I'm going to talk to people about, and I already have to a degree, but we'll continue to come up with whatever we feel like is the best strategy there.
I'd just like to welcome you to the UAB family, and I just want to make a statement. The UAB Athletic Foundation is 100% behind Ray, Mark, and Alex. We're excited about this hire. We're determined to do the things necessary to raise the funding level to allow him to have the maximum amount of success. And I'm asking for the entire community to mobilize and get behind this guy and get behind this university, because we have a real chance to do something special.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Any further questions? Good. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
At this time, Coach Mortensen will be taking sidebar questions for about 10 minutes. So thank you.